From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the 15th edition of the National Book Festival. I am Abby Nolan, and I review children's books for the Washington Post, which has been a charter sponsor and enthusiastic supporter of the festival for all of these years. I'm very honored to be introducing illustrator and storyteller Dan Santat. He is known as one of the hardest working people in publishing. Over the last 11 years, he has worked on more than 60 children's books. He also created the Disney Channel show, The Replacements. But of course, it is not only the quantity of what he's made, but also their quality that is so impressive. His vivid and inventive illustrations have filled such books as The Three Ninja Pigs, Oh No, or How My Science Project Destroyed the World, and Sidekicks. Last year, Dan Santat published a book, The Adventures of Beekle, the Unimaginary Friend, in which he contributed both the story and the illustrations, and they were and are perfect together. And indeed, he won the highest honor in children's picture books, the Caldecott Award for it. I'm sure you are eager to hear from the author-illustrator award winner himself. Please help me welcome Dan Santat.
I don't think that makes it a much more efficient microphone to come into. Doesn't make me twice as loud to do that. Thank you very much for having me in your wonderful District of Columbia. When I was a kid, my family, we came here to take a vacation, and my father was very much the type of man that it wasn't about enjoying the vacation, it was about saying that you were there. And so I remember we rented a car, and we came to Washington, D.C., and my dad pointed at the Smithsonian and said, "See that place? That's where they have the Wright brothers plane. That's also where they have Dorothy's red ruby slippers. But the line's really long. You don't want to go in there." And he drove off, and we went around the Lincoln Memorial, and he said, "I don't want to try to find parking, because that's really discouraging. But if we slow down and you look between the pillars, you can see Abe Lincoln right in there." And they went to Fairfax, stayed at a Holiday Inn. That's my life. It is wonderful that I get my own ASL sign language person. I like chicken. Let's begin, shall we? All right, my name is Dan Santat. I am this year's reigning Caldecott medalist. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to you about how to play with your imaginary friend, because you're probably wondering, Mr. Santat must really know a lot about that subject, because he did extensive research. And the fact is, yes, I do. I do know a lot about imaginary friends and how to utilize your imagination. I live in a wonderful land known as Los Angeles. We locals call it Los Angeles. Translation, I am an out-of-work actor. You may want to check your references. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. Not always accurate. I have many friends. Sometimes I'll go to the grocery store and I'll just run into them and I'll say, "Hey, Kermit, how you doing? You buying bacon there? What? That's weird. That's unusual." Surrounded by celebrities. In fact, it's rampant with reality stars who are like, "You don't know who I am? Oh yeah, you came in third place in The Biggest Loser. Good for you." Sometimes I'll go to the gas station and the Batmobile will be there. That's the magical land of Los Angeles. Those are my two children, Alec and Kyle. They're 9 and 6. I can't wait for school to start. This may be a little bit more of an older person question, but I'm going to give you a little pop quiz. This house is a mile away from me, and it is a famous celebrity house. I'll give you to the count of 3 to take a guess on whose house it is. 3. It is Pee-wee's Playhouse. That's the magical world I live in, the magical world of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is so magical that we predicted we were going to have a black president, President Freeman. And you know, it's wonderful because I came here and I saw the White House, I saw the Capitol building covered in the rafters, and ironically, that's the ending of the movie Deep Impact, because the meteorite piece hits the Capitol building and they had to rebuild it at the end of the movie. Am I the only person that saw that movie? Don't make me feel terrible, because that's what happened. And it was just funny because I saw it and I said, they're still building it after that, after President Freeman saved us from that meteorite disaster. So now you're probably wondering, Mr. Santat, how did you become so imaginative? When I was a child, I had an imaginary friend named Mr. Pickles, and he was a chicken puppet. Back when I was a child, this is what a cell phone looked like. Now, these things were extremely expensive, and that suitcase was the battery. And you could probably talk on it for about 30 minutes. And so if you saw someone talking in one of those things, they probably could only talk to somebody else who had one of them, but you knew they were rich. Again, a grown-up concept. Just shout it out. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think that is? It's a video game, but what is that shape there? What do you think that is? It's an arrow? No, it's a fortress. And what's this? That's another fortress, right? Yeah, you're getting it. What is this? It's mountain. Yeah, it's a mountain. Raise your hand if you've ever played Angry Birds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Angry Birds when I was a child, in all its two-color glory, if you count white as a color. Next slide. The internet. Who loves the internet? Who likes to go on the internet and look up stuff? We didn't have the internet. We did not have, the internet did not exist. And now the common question I get from most kids is, what did you do? My parents told me to go outside and make a fort. And I went outside and made a fort. And, well, I never put that on my college resume, but I can make a pretty mean fort. This was my favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are. Hands down, probably, if Mona Lisa is the equivalent to the icon of fine art, then Where the Wild Things Are is the iconic metaphor for the perfect picture book. Advance, I say. Garfield. Now, when I was a kid, my parents didn't let me take any art classes, so I taught myself how to draw, and I taught myself how to draw by copying pictures of things that I liked. And I liked Mr. Garfield and Mr. Odie, and I would draw it over and over again until I knew it by heart. And I drew this when I was about 7 years old. But you don't see the hundreds and hundreds of ugly Garfields that it took to get to this point. And I like to tell kids that when they ask me, how do you become a good artist? I like to say it's like riding a bike. When you were born, you were not an awesome bike riding baby. Okay? You had to get on your training wheels and learn how to ride a bike, and then you became an awesome dirt bike riding kid, right? And so here, I spent many months practicing drawing Garfield to the point where I didn't even have to look at a picture of Garfield anymore, and I could draw Garfield by heart. This was a picture that I drew on my own. I drew this in 2nd grade. I was a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. You could say I was a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Okay. And I drew every day until I drew better dragons and better knights. I was a big fan of reading comic books, and I would sit in front of the TV and I would copy comic book covers of my favorite comics. Again, for all you adults out there, I used to sit down and I would sit and I would draw a cover while watching Dukes of Hazzard. And I remember this particular drawing, I sat down for the Duke of Hazzard, and it took such a long time that my mom came in and changed the channel so she could watch Dallas. And eventually I became a fan of Dallas because I drew many pictures. Again, it's way over your heads, kids, but that's okay. Your parents had a long day. They deserve a good time. The power of imagination. What can you do with the power of imagination? Very powerful, like having 2 microphones that turn into 1 mega microphone. Let me give you an example, because I'm very skilled at the power of imagination. For example, when you're a grown-up, you get awesome grown-up magazines like Crate and Barrel. You know, right now at this point of your life, you get cool magazines like Highlights and Ranger Rick, but when you're my age, Crate and Barrel's where it's at. Now let's say you like this 4-in-1 Weber grill, but you are a busy author illustrator and you don't have time to get in a car and drive down to a Crate and Barrel and look at that 4-in-1 Weber grill and press all the buttons and say, here's a big bag of money loaded in my car, it's sold. I don't have that time. But with the power of my imagination, I can imagine myself, boop, in that very scene, grilling with that man some delicious imaginary burgers. Let's imagine that I'm looking to get a new dining table set with chairs. And I look in that magazine and I say, those are pretty nice looking chairs, but I don't know if they're very comfortable, but I'm a busy author, illustrator, and I don't have time to get in a car and go down to a Crate and Barrel and sit in the chairs and try and pretending I'm eating food. No, I don't have that time. But with the power of imagination, boop, those oranges are delicious. And I might just later on use that juicer on the side to make some orange juice. Next slide. How I work. Mr. Santat, how do you draw all those books and pictures? I do many sketches. I draw many, many sketches. I get a manuscript, and then I break it into a 32-page document. That's if you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the question is, how many pages are a children's book? The answer is 32, or more, 38, 40, something along those lines. And then once I do my loose sketches, I do tighter sketches. This is a spread from the 3 Ninja Pigs. And once that's approved by my art director, or the artist that tells me how to paint things, then I go to final color, and boop, I said, boop, I add color. And that typically takes me about a day to color all that in, because I work very quickly. I work on a computer. That's how I say it, computer. That's how we say it in Los Angeles. I'll give you a quick demonstration of a painting for a cover that I did. So I start with a line drawing. I start blocking in my colors. I start adding shadows and highlights, adding mood to the scene. And I'm just watching the computer doing this. I just sit there, I don't do anything. This is how I do my art, kids. And there you go, there's your cover. And that took me a day, one day. Thank you, thank you. Your applause fills me with love. Oh boy, that died real fast. I've done many books. In my entire career, I've done over 60. I've been in this business for 10 years. Last year, I did 13 books in 1 year. I almost croaked. So you're probably wondering, Mr. Santat, how do you get so much work done? I know you use a computer in Los Angeles, but that's still a lot of work, 13 books. How do you do so much? Well, I had a nifty scanner next to me, and I thought, it would be great if I could get some extra help. And so I took my head, and I put it in the scanner, and I scanned myself, and out of the printer came a copy of me. Now, not just 2 hands, but 4 hands, 2 microphones, 1 mega microphone. And in the beginning, it was easygoing. He and I would get together every morning, make coffee twice as fast. One would boil the water, and I would grind the beans. And then we'd sit together and watch it steep. But one day, the power of imagination, I was playing with my kids' Lego set, and I made a little shrink ray, and I joked around, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if I shrank you with this little Lego shrink ray? But it actually worked, because my imagination is so good. And now I had this little Dan. So what do you do with a little Dan? You send him back to work. He was very efficient at drawing with that large, probably the size of a holiday gift wrap roll, drawing like that. Very good little Dan. We play catch. He needed his fair share of exercise, and really, I need to get outside more often. My skin was getting pasty. But as kids know, and as fathers know, when you throw them in the air, they say, more, more, and you go, I just ended up in a horrible loop, and I'm going to be here for hours, and Daddy's back hurts, but no, we want more. Okay. I would make him take care of the cat, and that got a little awkward, because he thought he was a mouse. And then I got to a point where I said, you know what, buddy, I need to grow you back to a normal size. So with the power of imagination, I got the Legos and I made a growth ray, and I said, before I try this on the little Dan, I will try it on another family member instead. Worked a little too well. Need to work out a few bugs. And so I took the Legos again, I dialed my imagination back just a tad, and I said, okay, let's not get too awesome here. Let's just get the right amount of awesome. And I made the new growth ray, and I tried it on little Dan, and boop. Still awkward, really hard to get clothes on him. Go through shirts like nothing. And to this day, we're still trying to work out the kinks. Again, my son. And if you come to LA, if you ever come down to sunny Los Angeles, you might see Dan walking around town. That's just how we work. But in the meantime, while he's trying to sort things out, I've made extra copies of myself. I don't like to drive long distances. But remember Mr. Pickles, my imaginary friend? We still are friends. He keeps me fit. We go out and exercise. We go out and do things every day. He and I like to go out for bike rides. I like to make him breakfast. I know, you guys are like, oh, very mean. And I understand. I understand the flaws. We're not perfect people. We make mistakes. It didn't occur to me that eggs would be an insensitive thing to feed a chicken for breakfast. But let me ask you, what do you think a chicken likes to have for breakfast? Eggs? You would probably say bird seed, right? Actually, they like cornflakes. Because it's on the box. They're on the box. They like cornflakes. Look at him, he's happy. We like to pillow fight. We like to pillow fight, like to get rough and tumble. But I sometimes forget that I'm a much bigger person, and sometimes I can get a little rough. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. He's an imaginary chicken puppet. So we decided to play something a little less rough. Now you guys are probably thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to kick that ball and it's going to hit the chicken in the face. But let me tell you something. I'm not very good at soccer. That's okay. We all have our flaws. And so Mr. Pickles was nice enough to say, you know, Dan, maybe we should just play a simple game of chess. And I thought, this is wonderful. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at chess. Just goes to show you can't be good at everything. Story time. Woo! Let's listen to Mr. Santat read Beekle. Let me go into details about Beekle. Beekle is actually a metaphor about the birth of my son. So when my wife told me that she was pregnant, first thing as a father is that you have a wave of terror that goes over your body, and you think, how am I going to do this? Am I going to be a good father? But then as the months go by, you start wondering, am I going to be a good father? And who is this person going to be like? And you wonder what this experience is going to be. And when the child is born, you love them unconditionally, and that's parenthood. And so Beekle is a story about the birth of my son. But it also works as a story about you making your first friend at school. I like chicken. There's my son. He's wearing a crown. We were on a road trip up to San Francisco, and he loved that crown so much, and that was why Beekle wore a crown. And in this story, imaginary friends have a specific purpose. So this boy likes to fly a kite, so his best friend is a cloud that blows the wind. This boy likes to play board games, so his best friend's a puzzle piece. This girl likes to swim, so her best friend is a fish. This boy likes to play music, and her best friend is a drum. But who is this guy friends with? Let's find out, shall we? Let's go. Who is your best friend? He was born in an island far away where imaginary friends were created. Here they lived and played, each eagerly waiting to be imagined by a real child. I can't even see that. That's horrible. Every night he stood under the stars, hoping for his turn to be picked by a child and given a special name. He waited for many nights, but his turn never came. His mind filled with thoughts of all the amazing things that were keeping his friend from imagining him. So, rather than waiting, he did the unimaginable. He sailed through unknown waters and faced many scary things. But thinking about his friend gave him the courage to journey on until he reached the real world. The real world was a strange place. No kids were eating cake. No one stopped to hear the music. And everyone needed nap time. Then he finally saw something familiar, so he followed. He had a good feeling about this place. So you can see the sandbox looks like the island, the Rainbow Dragon. But he looked everywhere. The ship on the back of the whale. He could not find his friend. He climbed to the top of a tree and looked out, wishing and hoping his friend would come. But no one came. He thought about how far he'd come and how long he'd waited and felt very sad. Then he heard a noise below. Hello. Her face was friendly and familiar, and there was something about her that felt just right. So as you can see, Beekle brought down the picture, and it turns out that the picture was already drawn about the moment they met. At first, they weren't sure what to do. Neither of them had made a friend before. But after a little while, Alice, they realized, Beekle. I'm Beekle. They were perfect together. Hi, Beekle. Beekle and Alice had many new adventures. They shared their snacks, they told funny jokes, and the world began to feel a little less strange. And as you can see here, she drew all the pictures in the book, and you find out that she's the author of the book. And together, they did the unimaginable. The end. So now one of the most common questions I get is, where did I come up with the name Beekle? And Beekle is the first word my son ever said. It was his word for bicycle. If you go on YouTube, you can find that very moment. It was the day he got a bike on his 3rd birthday, and he saw it, and he was like, Beekle. And my wife said, that would be a great name for a character. And I said, you know what? I think it would. So if you take off the dust jacket, the cover looks like it was made by the little girl. Come on. And I'm quite honored, thank you very much, to have been the recipient of the Caldecott Medal. I never thought I would ever experience that in my lifetime. Many people asked me what the Caldecott Medal looks like. They engrave your name on that. That's pretty cool. And then this character looks like he's shredding on an air guitar. I was delighted to see that on Halloween. A lot of people made Beekle jack-o'-lanterns. Here's one. Here's another. And then around the holiday season, people were making Beekle snowmen, which I thought was really nice, because that winter lasted a while, didn't it, folks? And, you know, you'd see tweets from people saying, I made another Beekle, and everyone was just like, knock it off already. Winter has to stop. I get it, winter is coming. Another adult joke. Little kids would make their own Beekle dolls. A lot of questions. People ask me, when are the Beekle dolls coming? Well, I'm happy to tell you that DreamWorks optioned the rights to make Beekle the movie, and it's going to be written and directed by Jason Reitman, who did Up in the Air, Thank You for Smoking, Juno, and now Beekle. So to answer your question about Beekle plush dolls, you don't get any until DreamWorks says it's okay. But I highly recommend that you guys make your own and share them on the internet, because I love seeing them. It's like the best. I love it. Thank you so much. Schools do Beekle craft work. Here's how to make a Beekle out of marshmallow, because everyone says he looks like a marshmallow. This was a fan in Vancouver who made a plush, a crochet Beekle. Every crochet ground. How dare you, mister? How dare you, sir? I said good day. But those were so nice that I made one for every member of the Randolph Caldecott Committee. And I think if you go on Etsy, you can buy your own, or you can buy the pattern. Tattoos. I have a tattoo here of a Beekle crown that I got, and my editor got a tattoo of Beekle, and 3 of the Caldecott judges got tattoos of Beekle. And my library promotions person at the publisher, Little Brown, she got a tattoo of Beekle in the back of her neck because she said that when she saw the book, she had a chill in the back of her neck, and that's why she got the tattoo, and I'm deeply touched. And there's my tattoo. I got a Beekle tie. The publisher gave that to me, and on the back of the tie are 2 dates, the date I got the phone call and the date I received the award. So thank you very much to my publisher for doing that. Beekle Lego? They made a Beekle Lego sculpture for me? That's cool. And that's it. Thank you very much.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.